Hello everyone, John AG here. Welcome back to my channel Aurex. If you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel. In this channel, you will find the real information, real market updates that everyone cannot tell you. So please subscribe to this channel and love you, all of my subscribers, for your support. And please watch this video till the very end because YouTube will not push my videos to more people. Today is Monday, May 25th, 2026. And right now, as we speak, a silent, invisible tremor is shaking the bedrock of the global financial system. It is a tremor that you won't hear about on the evening news. You won't read about it on the front pages of mainstream financial papers until the avalanche has already buried the valley. The talking heads will tell you that the markets are just consolidating. They will tell you that the inflation you feel in your bones, the inflation draining your bank account week by week, is just a transitory phenomenon or a supply chain hiccup. But I am telling you right now, they are lying. And the truth, the raw, undeniable, mathematical truth, is screaming at us from the shadows of the global economy. There is one signal, just one overarching, flashing red signal that matters for gold and silver right now. It is a signal that cuts through the noise of daily price fluctuations, algorithmic trading bots, and political theater. If you understand this signal, you understand the future of your wealth, your freedom, and your family's survival in the economic hurricane that has already made landfall. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal exactly what that signal is, who is triggering it, and why it guarantees the total revaluation of precious metals. Do not click away, because by the time you realize what is happening on your own, the exit doors will be bolted shut. The illusion we are forced to live in. We are living through an era of profound cognitive dissonance. On one hand, we are constantly assured by central bankers, politicians, and academic economists that the system is resilient. They point to manipulated employment data, altered consumer price index formulas, and endless interventions in the bond market as proof of their divine competence. They want you to look at a stock market propped up by printed liquidity and believe that it represents genuine economic health. But step outside that media echo chamber. Talk to the working man whose wages haven't genuinely outpaced the cost of living in 3 decades. Talk to the single mother trying to buy basic protein for her children, watching the price of ground beef and eggs double, then triple. Talk to the retiree who played by all the rules, saved for 40 years, paid their taxes, and now realizes their fixed income pension can barely cover rising property taxes and utility bills in 2026. The human cost of this system is staggering, and it is entirely by design. We are watching the middle class, the very backbone of modern civilization, being systematically hollowed out by the invisible tax of currency debasement. What we must understand at the deepest level is that inflation is not a force of nature. It is not a hurricane or a drought. It doesn't just happen. Inflation is a deliberate, mathematically guaranteed policy. When a government cannot tax its citizens enough to fund its grand utopian promises, and when it cannot borrow enough from foreign nations because those nations have lost faith in the currency, it resorts to the printing press. It creates currency out of thin air. And every single time they do this, they dilute the value of the dollars, the euros, or the pounds sitting in your pocket. Money at its core is just stored human energy. You worked 40 hours this week. You traded your blood, your sweat, your irreplaceable time on this earth for currency. You sacrificed time with your children, time pursuing your passions, to earn that paycheck. When central banks print trillions to monetize a massive deficit, they are reaching directly into your savings and siphoning away your life's work. They are stealing your time. This brings us to the terrifying reality of 2026. The US federal debt has blown past $40 trillion. I want you to truly let that number sink in. $40 trillion. Human minds are not evolved to comprehend a trillion of anything. If you spent $1 million every single day since the birth of Christ, you would not even be close to spending $1 trillion. And the system currently owes 40 times that amount. The interest payments alone on this debt are now consuming the national budget. We are spending more just to service the interest on past debt than we are spending on national defense, more than on infrastructure, more than on healthcare. The math is irreparably broken. We have entered a terminal debt spiral, and there is no mathematical escape velocity. The Federal Reserve cannot raise interest rates high enough to stop inflation without triggering an immediate sovereign default and wiping out the banking sector. Conversely, they cannot lower rates and resume printing without accelerating a hyperinflationary collapse that destroys the currency entirely. They are trapped in a burning building of their own making. And because they are trapped, the smartest, most ruthless money on the planet is executing a strategic, quiet, and relentless exit. The one metric that exposes the lie. This brings us to the absolute core of today's message. What is the one signal? If you strip away the noise of the stock market, the distractions of political elections, and the endless, useless chatter of Wall Street analysts, what is the single most important metric indicating where the world is going? The signal is the quiet, aggressive, and historically unprecedented sovereign accumulation of physical gold. I am not talking about retail investors buying a few coins. I am not talking about hedge funds trading gold futures contracts. I am talking about central banks, the apex predators of the financial ecosystem. Think about the profound irony here. Central banks are the exact entities that issue fiat currency. They are the architects of the paper illusion. They know exactly how fragile the system is because they are the ones writing the code and managing the ledgers. And what have they been doing behind the curtain while telling the public that gold is a barbarous relic? For the past 4 years, culminating in a historic, frantic frenzy in 2025 and accelerating violently into Q1 of 2026, central banks have been buying physical gold at a rate not seen since the collapse of the London gold pool in 1967. We are talking about thousands of tons. In the first quarter of 2026 alone, central banks added hundreds of tons to their physical reserves, draining the vaults of London and New York. This is not a trading strategy. They are not trying to buy low and sell high to make a quick profit. This is a fundamental, structural shift in the architecture of global money. They are preparing for a paradigm shift. Why is this the one signal that matters above all else? Because central banks buy gold for one reason: survival. They are preparing for a world where the US dollar is no longer the undisputed, monopolistic reserve currency. The weaponization of the dollar system in recent geopolitical conflicts, the freezing of sovereign reserves, the cutting off of nations from the SWIFT payment system, was a fatal miscalculation by Western politicians. It showed every sovereign nation on Earth, from the Middle East to Asia to South America, that if they hold their national wealth in digital dollars or US Treasury bonds, their wealth can be frozen, seized, or deleted with a simple keystroke in Washington. The trust was broken. And in the world of fiat money, trust is the only thing holding the illusion together. So nations like Poland, which has been aggressively stockpiling to reach massive tonnage targets, nations like China, which has added thousands of tons of undeclared gold to its State Administration of Foreign Exchange, nations like India, Singapore, and the entire BRICS Plus coalition have realized that physical gold is the only asset that carries zero counterparty risk. Gold held in your own sovereign vault cannot be sanctioned. It cannot be frozen by a foreign power. It cannot be printed into oblivion by a desperate central bank. It is wealth outside the matrix. When the creators of fiat currency are panic buying physical gold, you need to pay immediate attention. They are quietly building a highly fortified life raft while telling the public to stay comfortably seated in the dining room of the Titanic, assuring them the ship is unsinkable. The major investment banks, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, have all watched the data flows. They see the physical metal leaving the exchanges. That is why in 2026, we are seeing major institutional target forecasts for gold of $5,400, $6,000, and even $7,000. Gold is money. Everything else is credit. JP Morgan, 1912. That quote has never been more relevant than it is right at this exact second. But I want you to understand something deeply profound. When gold goes from $2,000 to $5,000 or $10,000, it is not the gold that is going up. Gold is static. Gold is unchanging. Gold is exactly the same 79 protons and 118 neutrons it has been since it was formed in the collision of neutron stars billions of years ago. What you are witnessing when the price skyrockets is the collapse of the purchasing power of the currency used to measure it. Bank of America's forecast of $6,000 gold isn't a price call. It is a system call. It is a mathematical acknowledgement that the fiat system is heavily fracturing under the weight of its own debt. The forgotten titan awakens. Now, if gold is the sovereign wealth preserver, the anchor of central banks and empires, what about silver? Silver is a completely different beast. Silver is the forgotten titan, the coiled spring of the commodities market, and right now, in May of 2026, it is awakening with a violence that is taking Wall Street entirely by surprise. After surging past the decades-old resistance ceiling of $50, silver has entered a phase of true, unbridled price discovery, blowing past $74 an ounce as panic begins to set in among industrial users. To understand silver, you have to understand its deeply schizophrenic dual nature. It is both a historical monetary metal and an absolutely indispensable, irreplaceable industrial commodity. And right now, these two titanic forces are colliding in a way humanity has never witnessed. Let's look at the raw, uncompromising data. We are currently facing the fifth consecutive year of a severe, structural supply deficit in physical silver. The world is short by hundreds of millions of ounces annually. What does that mean in plain English? It means humanity is consuming vastly more silver than the global mining industry can physically pull out of the Earth's crust. And we aren't just using silver to make jewelry, cutlery, or luxury items. Silver is the most electrically conductive, thermally conductive, and reflective element on the periodic table. It is the absolute lifeblood of the modern technological revolution. You cannot build the 21st century without it. Every single solar panel installed in the massive green energy push requires significant amounts of silver paste. Every electric vehicle rolling off the assembly lines of Tesla, BYD, and Ford requires 2 to 3 times more silver than a traditional combustion engine vehicle. Every high-end semiconductor, every piece of advanced medical equipment, every 5G cell tower, every AI data center switch, and every guided missile in the military-industrial complex requires silver. And here is the absolute kicker: the fact that Wall Street analysts conveniently ignore. There is no substitute. Every attempt by brilliant engineers to replace silver with a cheaper metal like copper or aluminum in these advanced applications has resulted in inferior performance, dangerous overheating, or catastrophic failure. Silver is an elemental necessity. So, you have an unstoppable exponential demand curve driven by the global energy transition, artificial intelligence hardware, and military expansion, crashing headfirst into an inelastic, shrinking supply curve. The global mining grades, the amount of silver yielded per ton of earth moved, have been falling steadily for decades. Furthermore, roughly 70% of silver is mined as a byproduct of copper, zinc, or lead mining. You cannot simply flip a switch and mine more silver just because the price goes up. It takes 10 to 15 years of capital, permitting, and environmental studies to build a new mine. The supply physically cannot respond to the demand in time to prevent a shortage. What happens when you combine an unprecedented, unfixable physical shortage with a sudden, violent surge in monetary demand? What happens when retail investors, family offices, and institutions realize that their fiat currency is melting from inflation, and they start buying physical silver as a hedge to protect their families? You get a thermodynamic explosion. You get an asset that isn't just protecting purchasing power, but geometrically multiplying it. The historical gold-to-silver ratio tells us that silver is still incredibly undervalued relative to its yellow cousin. In the Earth's crust, silver is mined at a ratio of about 7 to 1 compared to gold. Yet the financial system has priced it at ratios of 80 to 1, or even 100 to 1 in recent years. This pricing anomaly is a glitch in the matrix caused by paper derivative manipulation. If gold pushes towards $6,000 and the gold-to-silver ratio merely normalizes to historical monetary averages of 30 to 1 or 15 to 1, silver at $74 is nothing but the launch pad. We are looking at mathematical targets of $150, $200, or even higher. The paper markets in London and New York, the COMEX and the LBMA, have artificially suppressed the price for decades through the unlimited short selling of paper contracts. They trade hundreds of ounces of paper silver for every 1 ounce of real, physical metal sitting in the vault. But here's the beautiful, undeniable reality. Paper contracts cannot generate electricity. A paper derivative cannot build a solar panel or guide a missile. When industrial users like Samsung, Apple, and defense contractors demand physical delivery because their supply chains are freezing up, the paper illusion completely shatters. A short squeeze in physical silver makes the meme stock crazes look like a child's game. That is exactly the dynamic we are watching unfold in 2026. The moral imperative of sound money. I want to step away from the charts, the supply deficits, the tonnages, and the institutional forecasts for a moment. I want to talk about you. I want to talk about the human soul, the nature of society, and the morality of money. Economics is not just a collection of sterile mathematical formulas plotted on a graph. Economics is the study of human action. It is about human behavior. It is about how we interact, how we survive, how we plan for our children's future, and how we allocate our finite time on this earth. In the system we have been forced to live in since the abandonment of the gold standard in 1971, this purely fiat, debt-based credit system is deeply, fundamentally, and morally flawed. When you have a financial system based on the infinite expansion of debt, you create a society of perpetual anxiety and moral decay. Think about the world around you. Why does everyone feel like they have to run on a treadmill just to stay in the exact same place? Why do both parents have to work multiple, exhausting jobs, putting their children in daycare, just to afford a standard suburban home that a single blue-collar income could easily afford 50 years ago? Why are young people completely giving up on the dream of home ownership, choosing instead to live in a state of financial nihilism? It is because the money is broken. The foundation of the house is rotting. When money is sound, When money requires actual labor and energy to produce and cannot be printed at will by an unelected central authority, it forces governments to be honest. It forces them to live within their means. If a government on a gold standard wants to wage a foreign war or build a massive infrastructure project, they have to look the citizens in the eye and ask for taxes. They have to ask for your consent to take your wealth. Sound money is the ultimate, unbreakable check and balance on tyranny and government overreach. But fiat currency allows governments to completely bypass the consent of the governed. It allows them to fund endless destructive wars, infinite bailouts for corrupt banking institutions, and sprawling, suffocating bureaucracies by quietly siphoning the purchasing power from your savings account. It is taxation without representation, executed through the cowardly stealth of inflation. It steals from the poor, the working class, and the savers, and it transfers that wealth directly to the political elite and the asset-owning class who have first access to the newly printed money. This is why owning physical gold and physical silver is not just a financial investment strategy, it is an act of profound, peaceful financial rebellion. It is a definitive statement that you refuse to participate in the fraud. It is a declaration that you refuse to let your life's work, your sweat, and your legacy be confiscated by the arrogance, greed, and incompetence of central planners. When you hold a 1-ounce silver coin or a gold sovereign in the palm of your hand, you are holding something real. You feel the weight of it. You are holding something that was forged in the unimaginably violent heart of a dying star, blasted across the cosmos, buried in the earth for billions of years, mined with heavy machinery, refined with extreme heat, and struck into a universally recognizable form of value. It took intense physical energy and human labor to bring that coin into existence. It has zero counterparty risk. It does not require a Wi-Fi connection to exist. It does not require a password. It cannot be hacked. It does not depend on the empty promise of a politician seeking re-election. It simply is. It is honest money. For 5,000 years of recorded human history, across every single empire that has ever risen and violently fallen, the Romans who clipped their denarius, the Greeks, the British Empire, the Weimar Republic with their wheelbarrows of useless marks, modern Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Lebanon, Argentina, gold and silver have been the ultimate financial lifeboats. Whenever the arrogant experiments of fiat currency inevitably collapse back to their intrinsic value of absolute zero, humanity always, without exception, returns to the precious metals. It is not a theory, it is a law of economic gravity. You cannot fight gravity, and you cannot print physical matter. Navigating the tipping point. So, where do we stand today, on this Monday, in May of 2026? We are standing squarely at the tipping point of a massive historical cycle. The convergence of macroeconomic forces is unlike anything any living human being has ever witnessed. You have the absolute mathematical disaster of a $40 trillion sovereign debt in the United States, driving uncontainable, sticky inflation. You have the rapid, aggressive geopolitical fracturing of the world order, with the BRICS nations and emerging markets openly de-dollarizing their bilateral trade and hoarding physical gold to back their new clearing systems. And you have an absolute terrifying supply crisis in physical silver, driven by the unstoppable momentum of the green energy and technological revolutions. The central banks have sent the signal. The writing is on the wall in flashing, blinding neon letters. They are preparing for a hard reset of the global monetary framework. They are positioning the chessboard for a new reality, and the golden rule is about to be enforced. Whoever holds the gold makes the rules. If you are waiting for a mainstream media anchor on a major network to tell you it's time to protect your family by buying gold and silver, you will be waiting until the vault doors are permanently locked. By the time the herd wakes up and realizes that the paper wealth they hold in their brokerage accounts, their 401ks, and their bank balances is evaporating in real purchasing power, the physical metals will be entirely unobtainable. Premium prices on physical bullion will skyrocket hundreds of percent above the fake spot prices dictated by the paper markets, assuming you can even find a dealer with any inventory left to sell. We are already seeing the massive warning signs of this exact scenario as physical demand for bar and coin surges to record highs across Asia, Europe, and the West, resulting in multi-week shipping delays. The window of opportunity to exchange dying, infinite fiat currency for real, historic, finite, tangible wealth is closing faster than anyone realizes. It is not about timing the market perfectly to catch a dip. It is about understanding the macro reality and positioning yourself completely outside of the blast radius before the detonation occurs. My mission on this channel, Aurex, has always been to empower you with the unvarnished truth, to cut through the sophisticated, heavily funded lies of the financial establishment and give you the raw reality of the world we live in. If you have watched this far, you are awake. You are part of a small minority of people who understand that the system is not functioning for your benefit, but rather operating as a mechanism to extract your wealth. So, what must you do with this information? Knowledge without action is completely useless. First, you must undergo a paradigm shift in your mind. You must eliminate the psychological anchor to the US dollar or whatever local fiat currency you transact in. Stop measuring your wealth purely in terms of depreciating fiat. Start measuring your wealth in ounces. How many ounces of gold and silver do you hold? How much real, tangible, historically proven purchasing power have you secured to protect your family's standard of living for the next decade? Second, you must take physical possession. If you buy paper derivatives, unbacked exchange-traded funds, or unallocated gold accounts at a major bank, you are carrying massive, catastrophic counterparty risk. You are paying for the illusion of safety. If the system experiences a severe liquidity crisis or a force majeure event, those paper claims will simply be settled in worthless cash, right at the exact moment you desperately need the physical metal to survive. The rule is absolute. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. Third, you must stay educated, emotionally grounded, and exceptionally vigilant. The transition we are living through will not be a straight line. It will be incredibly volatile. There will be massive, engineered price swings designed specifically to inflict maximum psychological pain. The establishment will try to shake you out of your positions. They will abruptly raise margin requirements on the exchanges. They will dump massive amounts of naked short contracts in the middle of the night to spoof the price. And the media will run relentless smear campaigns against hard assets. You must have the intellectual fortitude and the deep historical understanding to look past the daily manipulation. You must focus solely on the fundamental truth. The fiat system is dying, the math cannot be fixed, and gold and silver are the eternal money of humanity. This is not a message of fear, doom, or panic. It is a message of ultimate empowerment. Once you understand the reality of the board we are playing on, you are no longer a victim of the system. You are a sovereign individual. You are taking complete, unapologetic control of your own financial destiny. You have the power right now to protect your family, to preserve the value of your labor, and to emerge on the other side of this historic transition, not just intact, but thriving, with generational wealth that cannot be inflated away. The central banks have shown their hand. The signal is clear for anyone willing to open their eyes and look. The great wealth transfer of 2026 is fully underway, moving capital from those who trust the state to those who trust history. The only question that remains, the only question that truly matters for your future is, where will you stand when the dust finally settles? Will you be left holding the bag of a hyperinflated, debt-riddled, politically weaponized fiat currency? Or will you be holding the historic, uncounterfeitable, universally desired wealth that has survived every crisis, every war, and every economic collapse for 5 millennia? The choice is entirely yours, but time is not your friend. Thank you for watching this video. I put my heart, my soul, and countless hours of research into bringing you this truth, and it means the world to me that you take the valuable time out of your day to listen and to learn. If this message resonated with you, if it opened your eyes to the reality of our fragile financial system, please hit the like button right now. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts. Are you stacking silver? Are you acquiring gold? Are you seeing inflation destroying your local community? Let me know. I read as many comments as I can. And as I said at the beginning, if you haven't yet, subscribe to Aurex. Share this video with your family, your friends, your colleagues, and anyone you genuinely care about. The algorithms do not want this kind of unfiltered systemic truth to spread, so I rely entirely on you, the core Aurex community, to bypass the censorship and get this critical message out to the people who need to hear it. I love you, all of my subscribers, for your continued, unwavering support. You are the reason I do this, day in and day out. Stay strong, stay fiercely vigilant, protect your wealth, and protect your families against what is coming. This is John A.G. signing off. I will see you in the next market update.